Welcome to the Effortless Swimming Podcast. My guest today is Baden Schaff. Now, Baden, we've known each other for a long time, and we first got to know each other through swimming and coaching. But about 7 years ago, actually, you introduced me to this app that you created called Skillest, and this is what we've been using to do analysis and coach people at our clinics, because this is the greatest analysis tool that I've come across and use as part of our swimming and coaching. So I wanted to get you on the podcast today to talk a bit about the app itself, and it doesn't need to, you don't need to sell the app. It's just amazing. I'm going to talk about it, but I want to get you on just to talk about how athletes and coaches can use video analysis and how to use remote coaching to improve, because I've had a lot of experience over the last couple of years. We've used Skillest for about 7 years now, and it's only gotten better. So I just wanted to get you on to talk a bit about that. So welcome to the podcast.
Awesome, mate. Thanks so much for having me. I'm a long time listener, so this will be cool.
Well, I before I heard about Skillest and found out what you were doing, we were running clinics and we do underwater filming and analysis, and I would employ someone 2 days a week to name, export, download, re-upload, and then send out the videos. It was a cumbersome process, and it just made me not I almost didn't want to run the clinics because there's so much back end work afterwards to get everything out. And then you introduced me to Skillest, and what we do now is it's just we film, upload it, or add it to the app. I do the analysis, and I'm talking over, drawing lines and angles, and then I hit stop after that recording. And then when I get back home, I just hit upload, and it's done. The person can get the video, they can get their analysis and communicate back and forth. So it's literally saved me 2 days of full-time employment of someone to do all this back-end work, which was really clunky. And sometimes we get things wrong there too. It just makes things so simple. So it's just been the biggest, it's just been such a game changer for what we do for in-person coaching. And I think a lot of swim coaches don't actually know about it. Because you're primarily a golf app. That's how it started, but now you're branching into other sports. But do you want to tell those listening, how did this come about? Why did you create it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we created it for a bunch of different reasons, but the primary one was that because the platform itself is obviously this incredible in-person tool that, the way you use it, you've done over 6,500 lessons on the platform now. But the cool thing about it is that it's the number one online lesson tool in golf, right? So anyone in the world, any coach in the world and any student in the world can interact with each other completely remotely. So obviously during COVID, it was, fantastic for us, terrible event obviously, but incredible for golfers, to be able to literally stand in their backyard, put up a net, hit balls, and interact with the best coaches around the world. So it is this beautiful combination of an in-person tool, but this incredible online tool. And that inspiration came many years ago. It was 20 years ago. Because I'm a PGA member, I'm a teaching pro. 20 years ago, I remember getting my first ever golf lesson. It was 25 years ago. I got my first golf lesson, and I was just inspired by the whole event, how you could move someone's body and change their wrist angles, and it completely changed their ball flight. And I was just blown away. And I turned to the coach and said, "Right, how do I do this for the rest of my life?" And I meant coaching. I didn't mean how do I learn how to become a pro player. I just loved the idea that you could fix someone's golf swing so quickly and help their game. And I'd always been a bit of a technique freak, grew up swimming, absolutely loved swimming. That's how you and I know each other. You were actually giving me swimming lessons even before you got onto Skillest. But what happened during my sort of growth and process, I moved to Queensland. I worked with this coach called Gary Edwin, who's one of the greatest golf coaches in the world. His players have won $80 million globally, playing on all tours around the world. And Gary was literally doing online lessons 20 years ago. But his version of online lessons, even before I got there in 2002, people were sending VHS tapes, right, of their golf swing to him from Holland and New York. It was unbelievable. He'd then create a video and send it back through the mail to, for them to what they need to work on with their motion and things like that. But obviously that had evolved. By the time I got there, email was getting bigger. Video sharing inside email was a nightmare, but people were so desperate for his IP, they'd go to any lengths to send their golf swing to him. even like online banking wasn't even working properly at that stage. PayPal was, fledgling, and YouTube, like it was just a nightmare to share video. But people were doing anything to get his information. So I was watching all this happening. I was like, well, this is clearly the future when someone figures out how to make it actually work properly. And then I went overseas. I taught over in Europe and Southeast Asia. And when I was overseas, and this is just so applicable to all sports and any coach out there and any student, any swimmer out there will be able to appreciate this. When I had the student in front of me, it was amazing. Like, you could fix their ball flight. They hit it the best they'd ever hit it. Same as swimming. It's the fastest they've ever moved through the water. I totally can feel that. But as soon as they disappeared, it was like it would just go. Like, they'd have it for 3 days, and then, they'd come back 2 or 3 weeks later and they're like, yeah, I had it going for a while. It was pretty good, but I've lost it. I didn't ever film myself. I didn't know what I was looking at. And so basically, we sort of then, then in probably about 8 years ago, I was teaching one of my students who was a student obviously coming at the same problem from the opposite end, which the main problems were, I need to interact with you far more often than this, like, brief interaction standing on the mat. Like, that's, as I say to my students now, it's 2% of it. Like, the mat interaction or the driving range interaction or the pool interaction, that's like 2% of it. It's like what you're doing on your own, which is the most important bit. But then I was also acutely aware that every coach out there was right for a student, but that student might necessarily be in their geographical area. So the coach that I learned everything from, this guy, Gary Edwin, was unbelievably different in the way he taught to everyone else. Like, literally, you couldn't get 2 more diametrically opposed models from what he believed to what the average person believed. And it's the same in swimming. Like, you watch, I'm not going to name any names, but like, there's so many, styles you watch, on Instagram and everywhere. It's like, well, that guy's saying that thing and that girl's saying that thing and that guy's. So obviously it's true for some people, but what we had to do was create a marketplace that not only allowed you to coach in person, coach people around the world, but be discoverable by students, by swimmers, by golfers all around the world, essentially. So now when you go in and have a look at your profile, Brenton, it's got like, this is who Brenton is, this is how much he charges for online lessons, this is where he coaches at, and he's done 6,000 golf lessons, and these are all of his ratings and reviews, of which I was reading one of your reviews the other day, mate, and I don't know if you saw it, but the gentleman said, unequivocally, the best sports coach at any sport in the world, or something like that. So, wow, he's good. So,
I'll take that.
Yeah, exactly. But there's no other platform in the world that actually allows a coach to have a consumer-facing profile that makes them discoverable by any student or swimmer, golfer, whatever it might be around the world. So the exciting thing is now, Brenton, I suppose, is that we're now, for the very first time, I've been holding back for 7 years, and Brenton's been the only coach, literally the only coach outside of golf for 7 years that's been using the platform, but we've proven that it does work in swimming, and we're now launching in swimming quite literally in the next day or so. By the time this gets out, it will be up and running, so you'll be able to click through.
Yeah, it's really exciting to have that ability for swimmers or triathletes to be able to go through Skillest and choose a coach that they feels right for them, and then they can just send their swimming videos through and get an analysis, get a lesson from that person. And there's going to be some elite swimmers on there, and we're going to have one coming up on this podcast as well, who people will see really soon, and then also elite coaches and in swimming, and I think triathlon as well. I think there'll be a lot that will sort of come on board. So and for me, like, this is this is kind of my bread and butter. This is what I do. It's stroke analysis. It's feedback. So by sort of sharing this, I'm opening up the options for people to choose from different coaches, and as you said, I might not be the right person to coach someone, whatever they're working towards. They might have a better option. So by sharing all of this, it's like, well, I might have less swimmers that are sending their videos to me, but I really like this platform, and I've just found it so beneficial as a coach. And then for the athletes that I work with, it's just like, it's magic. And what I love seeing is if I'm coaching in person and we upload a video, we're going through the analysis, people are seeing themselves swim in their their jaws on the floor. They're like, oh my God, I cannot believe that is me.
Yeah.
And then we slow it down and ask them, what can you, like, is there anything you can see here that you think you could improve? And sometimes people will get it and they're like, okay, I can see my hips are dropping. I can see I'm over rotating. But then sometimes people are like, I've got no idea where to start. And either way, it's like the videos can show you, and you really just need to slow it down. And even me personally, like I can't pick things up straight away. Sometimes I just need to slow it down and dig a little bit deeper. And with being able to just sort of go frame by frame with it, to be able to draw the lines and the angles and just use the tool, it makes it much easier to do that. And I also want to just talk about filming tips as well, because I get asked this so often. How do I film myself swimming? Well, if you don't have a friend or coach there to film you, then what I'd suggest is if you've got a phone, just front and side views are good. And if you've got a GoPro or an underwater camera, or even a phone, just get like a waterproof pouch, as long as your phone's somewhat water resistant in case it does leak. But just get a waterproof pouch and film yourself from the front and side angles as well. Just make sure you're far enough away from the camera. So probably a lane across so you can see everything that's happening. And the other thing as well with that too is if you have a GoPro, you can get like a tripod. They're called Gorilla Pods. They've got bendable legs, and you can wrap that around a lane line. You can wrap it to the to the stairs or to the handles on the stairs, or you can just sit it on the bottom of the pool, which a lot of the swimmers I coach do. So there's a lot of, or you can get a GoPro clamp as well and attach that to the lane line as well. So there's lots of options there, but something like a tripod with bendable legs that you can wrap around something or sit on the bottom of the pool and angle it, that's all you need. So it takes a little bit to get set up, but once you've got it, like, it's very easy. And the swimmers that I coach are just like, yep, all right, 5 minutes, I can film these different angles. And they just send it to me, and it's just a part of their training.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, I use it with you. Like I was lucky enough. My wife goes to the gym and I'll be in the pool doing my version of a set. And as she comes down, like at the end of the set, I'll be like, hey, can you just grab your phone or grab my phone and capture this? She gets me coming up and down the lane and then goes around to 90 degrees, I suppose, side on, and captures that as well. And I mean, even without the underwater GoPro stuff, which is probably, if you could get that, that's unbelievable. But I just get so much out of working just those angles. And I saw some footage of myself. We're actually up on my Bucks party a few months ago, and we went out on a boat out in the middle of Sydney Harbour. And we had a race out around the yachts, and came back. And my brother actually captured it, and I was like, "Hey, my form looks pretty good there, considering I've had 3 beers," sort of thing. So it was good to be able to see it and go, "Oh wow, that's really getting towards where I want it to look," sort of thing. So it's great.
Yeah, and I want to sort of just touch on some of the themes that you've seen working well with remote coaching, because I know a lot of the triathletes that I know and that I coach, they have a triathlon coach that is remote. They're sending them programs via Training Peaks or Today's Plan. And so they're being coached remotely already. And I think it's, people are quite accustomed to that remote coaching now, whereas back 10 years ago, not so much necessarily. So what are some themes that you've seen working well with a good student-coach relationship in golf? Because, hundreds of golf coaches and athletes using the platform. And I'm sure there's been some common threads there that you see helping people make good improvements.
Totally. It's sort of the way the platform is, and like this now, Brenton, and you watch the evolution of it, like probably when we first set out to build it, what we built was something which was taking the in-person experience and putting it online, right? So we sort of just took, all right, the platform's all about video analysis, effectively, and it was just about video sharing, and it was about hardcore analysis and stuff like that. But as time's evolved, and you've seen these tools we've built in, there's now a messenger inside, Skillest, which is like iMessage on steroids. It's got Zoom integrated. It's got the analysis tool. It's got payments integrated into it. It's got voice and text and all that sort of stuff, obviously. Is that what a golf lesson is, and hopefully, what these swimming lessons and the swimming relationships become, is they become like what we call it the little and often learning model. So rather than having huge amounts of IP just dumped on you in one go, you might actually interact with your coach 4 or 5 or 6 times a week. Now, that interaction can be anything from leaving a voice message where you say you've just swum, like you've just competed in like an Olympic triathlon, and like you basically just jump on the messenger, and you're paying a subscription to your coach as well. So it's basically 24-hour access with all these cool comms tools inside it, and you're just leaving voice messages. You might share a video from the race, but you might or you might leave some stat sheets or something like that. But like a lesson is not just about, here is my golf swing in terms of golf, like fix my golf swing, give me a half an hour breakdown of this swing. A golf lesson literally might be a voice message where a student jumps on after a practice session and goes, okay, I think I understand that feel you're talking about. Should I be thinking about it like this? Blah, 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 blah. Leaves the voice. Bang, the coach gets to it, replies. That is what learning is now about, like in golf, right? It's these constant and often interactions that aren't, impossible to digest. Like, sometimes when you're in a pool, like even when I've had in-person lessons with you, it's quite an intimidating environment to try and move through water, because you're trying to get through the water, but you're also trying to be perfect, because I've only got you there for half an hour, and I'm trying to get my technique absolutely perfect. And I'm sort of like, oh God, I don't know what I look like, and this is super intimidating. But if I could just literally capture one little bit and send it back to you and go, is this what you meant? Like when I'm working on it on my own, that's everything. Like that's a lesson. Like just like you don't even need to like do a complete breakdown on the new stroke. You're just like, you're on the right track. Keep doing those drills or whatever it might be. Does that make sense? So that's where it's now evolved into, okay, you now pay Brenton basically to have 24-hour access to your brain, and so I can just bounce ideas off you. You might even see something like if you watch a meet on TV and you see someone with a ridiculous stroke or something, and you capture it on your phone, send it to Brenton and go, this guy's doing straight arm stuff. Should I be like trying that? And you're like, no, don't do that, or whatever it might be. Yeah. So that's what it's become. It's just like this amazing conversational tool. Video sharing, video analysis is a big part of it. But yeah, it's just so much more than that now, I think.
Yeah, I think before I started doing remote coaching, I was thinking, I don't think that could work. The only way you can improve is with someone looking at you and giving you in-person guidance, except that now it's just so much easier to get video with a phone. It's just so easy to get that video. And then there's no pressure when that person's doing their swimming, they're doing the filming to perform on the spot.
Yeah.
So they'll just record it, as you say, send it off, and I'll be like, okay, this looks good, but you need to go deeper with your hand for this catch. And whereas in a lesson, sometimes people they tighten up a bit, like I've got to get this right now, or I'll never get it right. So it's something that I was really surprised by with how effective remote coaching can be, and I think it puts people at ease more. They know they've got more time to be able to get things right. And then they usually swim better because they're a bit more relaxed and they can have that back and forth more regularly.
Totally. Yeah, totally. I mean, I think about a golf lesson environment is a horrible learning environment. Like you've got like an hour to get it done. You've got this intimidating golf pro standing over the top of you and like, just do it this way, blah, 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 blah. And you're standing there like semi-frozen and like it's the worst environment to try and execute, really. It's absolutely terrible. You're trying to get it absolutely perfect. And it's so often like I'll be, say I'm giving someone a golf lesson, it's only when you walk away and you go and get some more balls for them or whatever it is, they're like, I've got it, I'm flushing it, right? And then you get back there and they shank the next one along the ground or something like that. And it's because it's that pressure that like prevents you from actually executing the right way. So what you want is like, all right, give me my information, give me my IP. I'm going to go and work at that on my own. I'm going to upload some stuff to you. And I'm also going to go on a journey of self-discovery, which is really important as well. Like, I remember you said that to me as well once, where you were like, all right, here's 2 little things you should be thinking about. And so maybe they don't both work together, but just keep your eye on the clock and see which one moves you through the water a bit faster, right? And so you can do that in your own time. And then you can go, yeah, I think I've got it, like I'm moving faster, and here's, some footage of that. So, yeah, it's just that do it in your own time in a comfortable environment, lack of pressure, and then constant feedback.
Yeah, like even at clinics, so we film at the start, and look, people generally swim pretty close to what they would normally swim in the beginning. Sometimes a little bit quicker because the pressure of the camera's there and they're going hard. And we might say swim at Ironman pace, and they're going at like 100-meter pace. However, we can still see probably what they look like. Now we do the analysis and we get in the water and we go through drills and we start working on things. And then before we do the last filming, I have them do a couple of 50s, just practice what we looked at in the video. And generally they're looking pretty good there. They're at least making some changes. And then when we get the camera out, not all the time, but quite often starts to fall apart a bit. They're like, oh, no, I need to work on my rotation, except like I'm also thinking about my kick and my catch. And then it tends to fall apart because they're thinking about too much there. So if I could have this secret camera, this hidden camera set up in those last couple of 50s before we film, they would look a lot better. So I explained to them, look, it's not about how you look here. It's about what you practice when you go away. And these are the things I want you to work on. And I want you to work on this one thing to start with for a couple of weeks. When you feel like that's changing, move on to the next one and so on.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. Yeah, it's the hard thing with golf is that, which is different to swimming in a way, is that you're always reacting to the ball flight. So in golf, people they think they hit a good one, they think they've made a good swing, if that makes sense, sort of thing. So yeah, anyway, that's sort of a bit besides the point, but it's look, these are the challenges of being having a coach-student relationship and helping students understand what it takes to get better and what a process it is. But what we've done as coaches in the past, we've been shithouse, to be perfectly honest. We've been terrible. We're quite transactional at times. We're just like, all right, when they're in front of me, I'll give them my full attention, but then they're on their own when they're not standing in front of me. We don't give them the the tools required, to understand, all right, these are the drills. This is how often you need to do it. I expect to see you here and send something through then. And it's I think as coaches, look, I don't want to speak for swim coaches definitely, but I know in the golf space, we've definitely been a little bit lazy in that sense.
And in terms of the tools, some of the ones that I really like being able to use with Skillest. So one is the comparison. So you can pull up got someone's video. You can pull up. I've got a library of elite swimmers looking at different angles and a range of different styles as well, like different freestyle strokes, and same for the other strokes as well. So sometimes I'll pull up a comparison there. I'll have a look at the front view and say, all right, this is what Katie Ledecky's doing through her catch and her pull. See here how you're going out really wide and then you're coming way under the body. Right? We want it to look like this, and you can just sort of link it up and play it frame by frame through that movement. And I think for most people, they're like, wow, okay, I can see what I need to do here. This is really clear where I'm going wrong. And being able to just pull that up is a massive one. And the other one that I really like is the angles tool is really simple, except it opens people's eyes up. And we've got a range that we want people to be in with their shoulder rotation, with their catch, also with their head position. So there's all these sort of different boxes that we want people to fit in to be within the ideal range, no matter what sort of style that they've got. And when we can just show them, here you're at 78%, this should be 30 to 40 degrees, that to them it's really clear that that they need to make a change there. And rather than just telling them change this, you can show them very clearly with the angles or compared to an elite swimmer that, all right, this is what needs to happen. And it builds up that belief and I think trust in that, what you're doing. They can see what a good swimmer's doing as well.
The visual's everything. The visual from seeing how other people are doing it, but then as you said before, the visual of seeing yourself relative to that. Where there is just I remember getting my very first golf lesson 25 years ago. I remember walking in going, can't be much wrong with my golf swing. This has got to be perfect. And then I saw it on camera. I was like, oh my God, that's a train wreck sort of thing. And, I can explain things to my students until I'm blue in the face. And because feel is not real, right? Because the way something feels is not how it is, they won't believe you, like, unless they see it. They're like, no, it can't be that. It can't possibly be that. And then when you use the visual, it's like, oh my God, like it is that. And so they can push past the way something feels. They can push past how bad something feels because then they know they're getting closer to what could be, right, in inverted commas sort of thing. But it's that's one of the hardest challenges that we have as coaches is because you only need to change something a millimeter on camera and it feels like 3 meters, in terms of their body feels. So once you can film it, show them, how far out it sort of is and they can appreciate that because they've got the comparison. They then also know how differently it has to feel for them to move it, right? So they then exaggerate things. They get better used to exaggeration, which is the hardest thing in, like, for what we do. Like, it is, we have to get people to exaggerate so hard to move it a millimeter. So the visual is critical for helping students have that, that mental dissonance of like, this can't possibly be right. And they look at it and go, that's perfect.
Yeah. I'm working with a guy at the moment on his swim, and one of the things he does is he's very shallow through his catch. So he's in a good position to start his catch, and then he's basically just pulling straight through, and even moving the hand and the arm almost shallower than where he started it. But he needs to get his hand and forearm going downwards more just to get a better catch, get more surface area. And so we've got it a little bit deeper. One arm's looking good. The other arm is still too shallow, but he's gotten it down a bit. And so the recent feedback that I gave him, I said, I want you to do 20 50s with 20 seconds in between, just keep it 60%. And I want you to count your strokes for each 50. Now, I want you to experiment with what you're doing with your right arm, because this is the one he's too shallow with. And I said, look, on one, I want you to feel like you're going like straight down, super deep. You're not even like bending the elbow, and just count your strokes. And then I want you to do one where you feel like you're keeping the hand really wide, because he's kind of coming underneath himself and the fingers are pointing to the side. And so I gave him a couple of other options to be able to just try different things, experiment. I said, let yourself just fail here. But the one that gives you the lowest stroke count, provided you push off the same, provided your effort's the same, the one that gives you the lowest stroke count is likely the one that's going to be the best change. So use that feedback there in that 2050s just to figure out what you need to do there. But like you said, you've got to exaggerate it because it just feels so different than what you think.
Totally. And getting back to the platform, and I don't want to carry on too much about it. We know it's great, but so that conversation you've had with him can happen over the process, the sort of the duration of a week or a month. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you just see them in person and go, okay, good luck with that, especially if you're doing clinics like you're doing, which you're only in Newcastle or Sydney or wherever you are at any one time for, you might only go there 3 times a year sort of thing. Like, how are they supposed to know if they're doing the right thing unless they have that ability to keep bouncing off you? And so that conversation you just discussed, imagine like, he can literally go and do that drill again the next day, upload some footage, or even just leave a voice asking you a question, or even upload some times or some data from his watch, from his Garmin or whatever it might be. And you can bounce off that and keep working with them. I just think, it's got to be the future of progression, surely.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, even just because on the student side of things, do they have the ability to slow things down as well?
Yeah.
Like they can essentially maybe not use, I don't know, can they use all the tools there as well?
Yeah, so students can analyze their own their own stroke, and they can, and they can save it, and then they can upload like their own analysis of their own stroke to you and say, hey, is this enough angle? Have I got enough rotation? Is my kick hard enough? Whatever it might be.
Yeah, it's really cool because I just see, and look, I put a lot of videos out on YouTube analyzing strokes, and people see that, which is really cool. And I think the swimming IQ of the people that come to clinics has risen over the last sort of 5 to 10 years that I've been doing that, because people have watched the videos and they know what they should be working towards. So I certainly see a lot more awareness around what a good stroke is and the things that they're aiming for. And so with the ability to actually analyze themselves with the tool, I think that's great, because I often get asked, what tool do you use for analysis? Because coaches I used to be, used to be the one that coaches would use, and I mean that's not supported anymore. And like I think it's already shut down, but I think it's shutting down end of the year or something. And but even then, like it just doesn't compare to what I'm able to do with Skillest now.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about what we've obviously built is that it's a complete end-to-end solution. So once students go home, they become part of your digital academy. They can watch public videos that you've made. They can pay to continue to interact with you. So we've got payments and all that integrated. So at the click of a couple of buttons, they can get 24-hour access to you. You then obviously are viewable by any swimmer around the world to be able to discover, your profile sort of thing. So it's sort of not just an analysis tool, is it? It's sort of like it's a marketplace, an end-to-end solution. And then obviously for students, it's a place where they can store all their analysis and be able to, ideally, they'll stick with you, obviously, Brenton, but discover coaches and be able to interact with them whenever they want.
Yeah, and look, it might sound like we're like trying to sell Skillest with it. The reason I wanted to get you on is because obviously I've used it for 7 years. It has made the biggest difference with the in-person clinics that we've run. It's basically just allowed us to run them, because if I was still having to do what we were doing to get the videos out, I don't think I'd want to. Like it was just such a pain in the ass for all the back end work. And now it's just made it so easy.
Similarly on that, just really, really quickly, we used to have golf coaches that literally in their Instagram page would say no online lessons in capital letters, right? Because it was a nightmare. Like people used to email stuff and expect it for free, and then you'd have to do an analysis on it. It's all over here. Now every single golf pros around the world, like we've got 900 coaches or something that are sort of weekly active or something coaching on the app and teaching online on the app, I should say. Now they just put their little deep link inside their Instagram account that within 2 clicks, any student around the world can be literally in their profile and chatting to them and potentially paying them for online lessons.
Yeah, it's just such a great tool. So if you're an athlete listening to this, get onto your coach, whether you're a triathlon coach or your swim coach, and even if you're in a squad, and I'd be thinking if you're even a junior swimmer, just if your coach sets up a Skillest profile, they can record you swimming at training, and then just upload it to the app, and you can just watch that back, and they'll be able to do an analysis in person as well. It doesn't need to take long. Or if you're like a triathlete, you're working remotely with your coach, they could set up a profile on Skillest, and you could just send them your video of you swimming and get some feedback. It's a really easy way to get that feedback, and it makes it easy for the coach as well, because I think that's a big one too. Where squad coaches, I know, are very time poor. They got a lot going on, and for them just to be able to give a few tips here and there once a week, once a fortnight to the swimmers, it can make a huge difference. And this is a way where it doesn't have to be time consuming, or it doesn't have to be extra admin for them. It's something that can be done in the session and done really easily. So if you're an athlete, I think that would be just say, hey, check this Skillest thing out. I think you'd be worthwhile. Just can you give me a hand here? Or if you're a coach, then obviously I think the benefits are pretty obvious there of how you can use it with your athletes.
100%, and obviously I'd love to help any coach or student out there to get on board it as well and understand what it's all about. But quite literally, I'm just so excited about this because, having spoken to even, I was in America recently, and you're having this gentleman on next week onto your podcast, so we won't we won't do any spoilers. But one of the greatest swimmers of our generation, really, and he was just saying that for him, as successful as he is, he just can't even make that much money. I think he does all right, obviously, but there's 100 Olympic swimmers in the States that don't quite make the money they should. And if we can give them an opportunity as well to coach on the platform and train kids and adults from around the world, we really just hope we can change the way the sport is learned and taught, and help coaches ideally make a little bit more money, and students get faster in the water more efficiently as well. That's the thing, getting lessons from you in person is not the cheapest thing in the world, and to get the best, the most out of that money they're spending, you need that constant interaction, that follow-up.
Well, I mean, aside from the clinics, I don't even do face-to-face lessons anymore because I just can't. I don't have the capacity for it. I don't have the time to do it. Whereas with with Skillest, I can do things, I can do online lessons, and it just makes it so much easier for me with everything I've got going on. So it's it's a great tool, and I just wanted to share this with those that are listening, because whether you are an athlete or a coach, there is a benefit there. You can use it to get faster. And if you haven't done any filming before, just whip out your phone, get someone to film you. And I know there's some, sometimes pools won't allow it, but if you're in that situation where you can, it's the best thing you can do for your swimming, because it's going to be eye-opening. For better or worse, it's going to be eye-opening, and it will certainly give you an idea of what you can do to get faster.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, really excited to launch. And I suppose we'll put the link maybe in the show notes or something, Brenton, for anyone that wants to come and join Skillest. And as I said, more than happy. My email is also baden@skillest.com. So Baden, bit of a strange one, but I've got to live with it. And at skillest.com. And if you email me, I can help anyone on their journey as well.
Fantastic. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks, mate.